Hi class, welcome to my CST-341 blogging website presentation. My name is William and my team includes Chad, Rick, Samantha, and Crystal. And today I'm going to be walking you through the blog we built, showing you all the functionality that we built in, and I'll walk you through all of the code sections, and I'll show you all the most important classes that we built. I won't be able to walk you through every little piece of code and explain it all due to the time constraints, but I will be able to look through each piece of code and sort of explain it and give a detailed breakdown of why we chose to do what we did. And then that includes the Java server pages, the Java classes, and the HTML and CSS files. And so yeah, let me hop into it. So here we have Eclipse open, and this is our main project, the Spring MVC blogging website. And here you can see some red errors showing. That appears to be an issue with Eclipse. For some reason, it doesn't recognize some of the included JavaScript that we put in the project. It's looking for HTML and Java inside of these Java server pages, but we did use JavaScript as well, and Eclipse isn't recognizing that. So that's the only reason for the errors. Everything runs perfectly smooth. It's just syntax errors that were picked up by Eclipse. So the first thing I'll do is go into the JavaScript resource, or not the JavaScript resource, I'll go into the Java resources here and walk you through the register controller. And again, this is all stuff that Eclipse catches as syntax errors. I'm not sure why it does this. It can actually be quite a nuisance if you're trying to debug it, but again, this is an issue with Eclipse, not with our project. As you'll see, it runs perfectly fine. So here we have, we're establishing the connection here. This is for checking usernames. So it's going to take in a statement and set the result. And then here we have registering the user. And then these are all of the fields right here that will be included in the HTML. And then the Java will get all of those fields and convert it to the necessary type. So if it's the age, it'll be an integer when it's stored in the database, and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's the register controller right here. It's getting the parameter from the HTML file itself, and if there's no username, then it will check the database to make sure that the username value or that the username is not already in use, and it will return false if it is available. And then here's checking to make sure that they correctly filled out all the fields. And here's model and views. You got to make sure that the password length is at least 5 characters. There's an age limit set because you might not want a child using this service that isn't of the appropriate age to be able to view the blog and that sort of thing. Here's the login controller. So mainly what this is going to do is take in the username and the password, and it's going to check the database and make sure that it matches with what's entered into the database. And it will also use it'll have a login status to track the session so that every time you reload the page, you're still logged in. And that's so that if you come back to a page, you don't have to re-log in every time. It'll keep you logged in, but then it will also make it so that anybody who's not a user can't visit any pages after the login controller, which would be the blog controller, which is the page that is locked out from any non-users. So if you are a user, it'll give you access to the blog page along with any blog posts that match your user ID. You can see that here where the blog ID is equal to the user ID. So the user ID will be stored in the blog post as a foreign key, and it will get all of the blog posts that belong to the user. Again, I know all these errors are distracting. I apologize for that. And so let's see here. Yep, so there it is, selecting blogs where the ID is equal to the ID stored in the database. And this also has an update handler and a remove handler, so you can update and delete blogs that were previously created. And here's the session. We're tracking the session, so it's going to get the session, which will ensure that the user that logged in is in fact the user that's trying to access the page. Here we go. Alrighty. So now we'll jump into some of the server pages. These tend to be smaller. They're delivering a message to the user saying, yes, your blog post was added. And then these are both, this is a CSS style page. You can see this here. It's just styling certain elements of the page. And then if there was an error registering, it will output the message that was given by the register controller. So let's say the password was only 3 characters long. This is going to give the message saying your password must be at least 5 characters of length, or it'll say, I'm sorry, this username has already been taken. So this message will appear on the login page if anything was unsuccessful. Okay. And now this is sort of the other side of that. So this will give you the message of success. From once you register, it'll give you the message of success, and then it will ask you to log in. And here it is right here. It's including the index.jsp, which pulls up the login page. That's the index. That's the home page. Another CSS style sheet here. I don't want to walk through each one of these and describe what each element is styled as it would take too much time. But again, you can see aligning the text to the center, changing the colors, margin bottom. Here it's denoting which class of HTML it's overriding. So if it's H1, anything styled H1 which has this CSS page linked, it will modify each one of those. All right, and then here it's a little bit more specific. So it's anything that's an input which has the type of submit. So it's not just all inputs. If it's an input and it doesn't have the type of submit, then none of this CSS code will apply. But if it's an input tag and it does have the type of submit, then all of this code will apply. All right, and now here's the update.jsp. This is for updating the blog post that you make. And here's where it gets a little more complicated because there is JavaScript included in this page right here. So this is we have accordions to expand and contract your blog posts for a little bit of easier viewing. So it's not all cluttered all over the page here. And a bit more styling here, as you can see. And let's see. And then here's the welcome.jsp page, which is when you log in to your blog, it'll give you a welcome message and it will show you all of the blogs that you have created on your page. And then here's the login servlet and the web.xml. Those are the boilerplate for connecting all of your servers up. That was what was provided to us by Professor Bass. And then here we have, again, more boilerplate. These are all the these are all the Spring and Commons jar files that are needed to make this application run smoothly. And Here we have our DDL script, blog.sql. So we use MySQL, and this has a bunch of SQL commands included within it, which will build the necessary structure if somebody wants to peer review or test this application. This includes all of the necessary database information. And then here we have the actual login page. This is what displays when you open the login page, and then some of those JSP files will be added if there's a message. And then here's the register page. This has all of the, again, this is the main register page, and some JSP files will be displayed under certain conditions. If there's an error or whatnot, they will be displayed within this page. But this is the main register page with all the styling and whatnot. And then finally we have our last style sheet. This is another CSS file, which has a lot of the styling of both the home page, the register page, and the blogging page. And then here's the pom.xml. That was for the Maven implementation. And now I'll just walk you a little bit through how it's set up. Of course, here we have our server tab. This is for our Tomcat server, and you have to add this Spring MVC login form to the Tomcat server and then run it. And as you can see, it's already running for the purposes of demonstration today. And then in order to use the database, we use MySQL. So we start up using XAMPP, we start up MySQL and Apache. These are also both running, but it's very simple. You would just start it up, and if you needed to make any changes to the actual database, you click admin and it will take you to the database page. And you can drop in the DDL scripts into a database called blog, and it will populate all the tables and whatnot. Alright, so now let's jump into the application. Here we have the home page on our local host, on our local machine. And this is responsive. It works on mobile. You can see that it's all centered here, and if you collapse it, it remains centered. And actually Google Chrome has some nice developer tools built in. If you press F12, it will actually take you to a view, so you can see on a Pixel 2 XL. Let's decrease the zoom a little bit. This is a little issue. There we go. Yeah, there was an issue with the Chrome developer tools for a minute there. But yeah, this is the responsive part of the application. As you can see here, it all fits nicely within the page. And there we go. So now I'll exit out of that, and let's just start off. Let's say we were a new user. Let's go to register. All right, so we're going to register. Let's say our name is Dan. We'll do Dan and then Snape as the example. Let's say we're 50 years old. We want our username to be Dan, our password to be Dan, since the password must be a number of characters in length. Now, if anything went wrong here, if I selected a username that's already in use, or if my age was under 13, or if my password didn't match, or anything like that, we should get an error. But it looks like everything is good. It says you have successfully registered. Please log in, Dan. Alright, so we'll do Dan. And actually, before we do that, we've already registered. Let me go back here and let me show you this page. So you can see here it works perfectly good with the iPhone 10. All mobile devices should run well on this. And you can see it's a pleasant experience to use on a mobile device, which is very important as most web traffic happens on mobile devices. So we've already created our Dan character, so we'll go to login. And here we go, log in. And Dan has no blog entries, all right? And let's just see if we log in with somebody who already has blog entries. So here we go. This is Mike. This is a previously created account, and he does have blog entries. So it will show any previously created blog post by him. Now this is a post I made, just has my name. But as you can see here, you could delete and update. But let's go back and log in as our Dan. and we'll add a new blog post, and we got our title. Let's say this is a test, testing, and we'll post it. There we go. Dan, we added your blog entry. Here we have the accordion, and it'll show us the title, which is nice. And then if we expand it, it will show us the content of the blog post. So now we could say, you know what, that was just a test. I don't need that posted on my blog. You know, that doesn't really explain who I am, so let me delete that. All right. So now we can create a new one, and we'll say this is a better version of the previous, and we'll go is the body of the blog post which I am posting today. All right, so now we can see the blog post we just created, and now for the final piece of functionality, we can update this post. So let's say we wanted to change it to say, I'm on vacation currently, and then say leaving town for a few days, and update, and boom. Perfect, there it is. All right, I hope you enjoyed the presentation today showing our blog application, and I hope you gained some insight on how to create your own blogging application, and I hope that I represented all of the things we learned this semester well, and I know that this class was extremely valuable for me, especially in building responsive web pages and in incorporating a lot of different frameworks into one application. I know that can be a bit overwhelming, but it's really important, especially as your application gets bigger, to use the best tools you have at your disposal. And I feel like we definitely did that with this project through the use of Maven, Spring using the model view controller rather than just rather than leaving any unwanted data to be sent to the user. We made sure that it was secure. And yeah, using Maven and Spring Beans and all of those things, it was really a challenge for us, but we learned a lot through the process. So thanks for viewing this. Bye-bye.